This is where I think, because I'm an ed tech dork, things start to get a little bit fun. You may or may not have played around with prerequisites in Canvas. So I, in that little description there, talked just briefly about pacing. So let's review that real quick. Pace is just the rate at which students are moving through their education. And we know that in a classroom, I like to go by the rule of a third, a third, a third. A third of students are getting exactly what they need at any given moment. A third don't need it. And a third, it's a little bit too advanced for them. And that's a good layout for most of our classrooms, just because not education isn't one size fits all, right? And so one way we can control pacing is allow students to go through work at their own speed, at their own pace. Right? However, we can't just say, yep, just go, right? We need to tightly structure that pace and provide some accountability and structures along that. So we're going to play with that idea a little bit. And the first way we can address that is through prerequisites. So prerequisites are, saying hey, you have to do this module in Canvas or these activities before you can get to this module. If you look at your Canvas, this is the teacher view version of it. I have all of these as prerequisites. The how do I say that? Ooh, my brain is mush. The like 2.0 is a prerequisite for a 3.0. You have to complete 2.0 before you get to 3.0, and so on and so forth. Except you can go to module 5 anytime you want, because this does not build on these ones, but the rest of these modules have a very clear progression. Hopefully you'll see that as you go through there. That's me controlling the pace of your learning. You can choose to go up to 2.3, do 5.1, 5.2, come back to 2. Like, I don't care. That's you. You can consume this information whenever you want, but you have to do these ones in a certain order. So that's me controlling your pace as you go through and a little bit your path, and which is the next one we're going to talk about. So in order to set up prerequisites, what you do is you set up your module, and I'm going to come to this one first and go to edit. And then notice I have this prerequisite option here in this module. So if I can select this, I can say every module that comes before this, I can select that and say it's a prerequisite of this one. And what I mean by that, notice is if I go up to 1, I don't have the option for a prerequisite because it is the first in a linear path. But if I were to come down to 3, I can add multiple prerequisites before you get to module 3. Pretty sweet. Now you probably also saw add requirements. You can choose to add different actions as requirements to these individual assignments. So like the example discussion, maybe I just want students to look at that and they can choose to participate if they want. But if I'm putting a discussion there, I expect students to be engaging with it. So I can force them to contribute to the page. Now, this does not control the quality of their response. They absolutely could just put blah, 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 and move on. But that's where your job as a teacher is, to come in and to facilitate their learning and to make sure that their responses are quality by jumping into that discussion, providing feedback, so on and so forth. So those are just a couple of different pieces, just a couple of different ways you can control the pace of learning for students. Take just a second. There's no activity tied to this information. Just take a second to jump into a Canvas course you have set up or create a sandbox course and play around with prerequisites and requirements just to make sure you are familiar with how they work. And if this is something you already knew, all right, move on to the next lesson. Let's see if we can expand that world a little bit for you. We'll see.